You're not sad, you're not anxious, you're not even really tired in the way most people understand tiredness. You're just empty, like someone turned down the volume on everything that used to matter. The things that excited you last month feel like tasks now. The people you love feel distant even when they're sitting right next to you. And the worst part is that you can't explain it to anyone because from the outside, you look fine. This is emotional burnout, and it doesn't announce itself with a breakdown. It arrives quietly, like color draining from a photograph you didn't realize was fading. Most people think burnout is about being overwhelmed, about having too much on your plate, about needing a vacation or a break from work. But emotional burnout isn't just about what you're doing, it's about what you've been carrying. The invisible weight of managing everyone's feelings but your own. The exhaustion of being strong for so long that you forgot what it feels like to let yourself fall apart. You wake up and the day ahead feels impossible, not because it's particularly hard, but because you don't have anything left to give it. You've been running on fumes for so long that you didn't notice when the tank went completely empty. There's a woman who used to love her job. She'd wake up early, excited about the projects ahead. She'd stay late because she wanted to, not because she had to. But somewhere along the way, something shifted. The excitement disappeared. The motivation vanished. Now she sits at her desk and stares at her screen and nothing happens. Her brain won't engage. Her body won't cooperate. She's not refusing to work. She literally can't make herself care. And the guilt is crushing because she knows she should care. She knows this job used to matter to her. But when she tries to access that feeling, there's nothing there. Just a vast, empty space where her drive used to be. This is what mental exhaustion looks like when it's been ignored for too long. It's not dramatic, it's not a crisis, it's just the slow erosion of your capacity to feel anything at all. People around her keep saying she seems off. They ask if she's okay, and she says yes because she doesn't know how to explain that she's not sad, she's not angry, she's just gone, like she's watching her own life from behind glass. Present but not really there. This is silent anxiety in its final form. After months or years of hypervigilance, after endless cycles of overthinking and self-monitoring, after managing perception and performance and everyone else's comfort, your nervous system doesn't collapse. It shuts down, it stops sending signals. It stops caring whether you're safe or not because caring takes energy and there's no energy left. You've probably felt this when someone asks what you want and you genuinely don't know, not because you're being polite, but because the part of you that has preferences, that has desires, that knows what it needs has gone offline. You've spent so long prioritizing everyone else that when someone finally asks what you need, you come up empty. There's a man who used to have hobbies. He played guitar, he read books, he went hiking on weekends, but now when he has free time, he just sits. He scrolls his phone without reading anything. He turns on shows without watching them. He's not enjoying the rest. He's just too tired to do anything else. And when people suggest he do the things he used to love, he can't explain that those things don't bring him joy anymore. They just feel like more obligations he doesn't have the energy to meet. This is the part of emotional burnout that nobody talks about. It doesn't just take your energy, it takes your ability to feel pleasure. The things that used to recharge you now feel like work. The relationships that used to sustain you feel like performances you have to maintain. Even rest doesn't feel restful because your mind won't stop running through the list of everything you're not doing. You're not depressed in the clinical sense, you're depleted, and depletion looks different. Depression tells you nothing matters. Depletion tells you everything matters too much and you can't hold all of it anymore. People don't understand this distinction. They see you functioning, they see you going through the motions, they assume you're fine, and you let them believe it because explaining requires energy you don't have, so you keep showing up, keep smiling. Keep pretending that you're still the person you used to be. But inside, you're running on autopilot. Your body goes where it's supposed to go. Your mouth says what it's supposed to say, but you're not really there. You're somewhere far away, in a place where nothing can touch you because feeling anything at all has become too expensive. This is what happens when your nervous system has been in survival mode for too long. It stops distinguishing between real threats and perceived ones. It stops sending you signals about what you need because you've been ignoring those signals for months or years. It learns that your needs don't matter, that other people's comfort takes priority, that rest is something you earn rather than something you require. And eventually, it stops trying. You know you're experiencing emotional burnout when you can't cry even though you want to, when you can't get angry even when something genuinely upsets you, when someone hurts you and you just feel nothing, not because you've forgiven them, but because you don't have the energy to process the hurt. There's a teacher who loves her students. She went into education because she wanted to make a difference. But after years of giving everything to her job, of staying late to help struggling kids, of taking on extra responsibilities because no one else would, something broke. Now when a student asks for help, she feels resentment instead of compassion. And that resentment terrifies her because it's not who she is. Or at least, it's not who she used to be. She's not a bad person. She's a burned out person. And there's a difference. Emotional burnout doesn't make you cruel. It makes you unavailable. It makes you numb. It takes the parts of you that used to care deeply about things and replaces them with a protective apathy that feels safer than feeling. This is the hidden cost of pleasing people, of saying yes when you mean no, of managing everyone else's emotions while ignoring your own, of performing competence when you're barely holding together. You think you're being strong. You think you're handling it, but your body is keeping score, and eventually the bill comes due. You start forgetting things, important things, not because you're careless, but because your brain is so overwhelmed that it started dropping information to survive. You make mistakes you never used to make. You miss deadlines, you cancel plans. And every time you do, the guilt compounds, because you know you're letting people down. You just can't make yourself care the way you used to. This is why you can't relax even when you finally have time, because relaxation requires a nervous system that feels safe enough to let go. And yours doesn't. It's still waiting for the next crisis, still braced for the next demand, still convinced that if you stop moving, everything will fall apart. So you keep moving, even when there's nowhere to go, even when rest is what you desperately need, because stopping feels more dangerous than continuing. Here's what most people miss about burnout. It's not just about doing too much. It's about doing too much without proper support, without boundaries, without the ability to say no. It's about giving from an empty cup because you've been taught that your worth is measured by how much you can endure. You learned somewhere that your needs are negotiable, that other people's comfort matters more than yours, that being helpful, being reliable, being the person everyone can count on is more important than being honest about what you can actually handle. And that belief is killing you, slowly, quietly, in ways that don't show up on the surface. There's a difference between healthy tiredness and burnout. Healthy tiredness responds to rest. You sleep, you feel better. You take a day off, you recover. But burnout doesn't work that way. You can sleep for 12 hours and wake up exhausted. You can take a week off and feel nothing. Because the problem isn't lack of rest. The problem is that you've been operating in a state of chronic stress for so long that your system forgot how to regulate itself. Your anxious mind has been running worst-case scenarios for months. Your body has been braced for danger that never comes. Your nervous system has been flooding you with cortisol and adrenaline to keep you moving. And now that the crisis has passed, or maybe never even happened, your system doesn't know how to stand down. This is the trap. You think if you just rest enough, if you just take enough breaks, if you just get through this current phase, you'll feel better. But burnout doesn't heal through rest alone. It heals through recalibration. Through teaching your nervous system that constant vigilance isn't required, through rebuilding boundaries that protect your energy instead of sacrificing it. And that work is hard, harder than just pushing through, because it requires you to disappoint people, to say no, to prioritize yourself in ways that feel selfish even though they're necessary. You start by acknowledging what's true. You're burned out, not lazy, not weak, not failing, burned out. And burnout is what happens when you give more than you have for longer than you should. The next step is identifying where the leak is. Where are you giving energy without getting anything back? What relationships drain you? What obligations do you maintain out of guilt rather than genuine desire? What version of yourself are you performing that requires constant effort to sustain? Most people resist this step because the answers are uncomfortable. The leak might be your job, it might be a friendship, it might be a family dynamic you've never questioned. It might be the belief that your worth depends on how much you can do for others, and you can't fix what you won't name. This is where internal control becomes critical. You can't control other people's reactions when you start setting boundaries. You can't control whether they understand or support your need to pull back. But you can control whether you keep sacrificing yourself to maintain their comfort. You practice saying no without explanation, not because you're being difficult, but because you don't owe anyone a detailed justification for protecting your energy. You practice disappointing people without apologizing for it. Not because you don't care, but because their disappointment isn't yours to manage. You also practice feeling your feelings instead of pushing through them. When you're tired, you rest. When you're sad, you let yourself be sad. When you're angry, you acknowledge it instead of redirecting it into productivity or pleasing people. This sounds simple. It's not, because you've spent years training yourself to override your body's signals, to keep going when you should stop, to smile when you want to scream, to be okay when you're falling apart. Unlearning takes time, and it requires you to trust that you won't lose everything if you stop holding it all together, that the people who truly care about you will still be there even if you're not constantly available, that your worth isn't contingent on your usefulness. There's a woman who used to respond to every text immediately, who said yes to every request, who prided herself on being reliable, dependable, always there, and then one day she just stopped, not dramatically. She just started taking longer to respond, started saying no without guilt, started prioritizing her own needs without apology. And some people were confused, some were upset, but the people who mattered understood, and the space she created by pulling back became the space where she could finally breathe again. This is what recovery from emotional burnout looks like, not a sudden transformation, but a slow, deliberate reclaiming of your energy, a gradual rebuilding of boundaries, a gentle return to the version of yourself that exists beneath the performance. You won't feel better immediately. There will be days where the numbness persists, where nothing feels right, where you wonder if you'll ever care about anything again, but those days become less frequent. And in between them, small moments of feeling return, a song that moves you, a conversation that engages you, a sunrise that reminds you of beauty still exists. Your mind learned to survive by shutting down. It can learn to feel again, not all at once, but piece by piece, feeling by feeling, breath by breath. This is what emotional burnout actually feels like. Not a breakdown, not a crisis, just the quiet disappearance of the person you used to be, replaced by someone going through the motions. And the journey back isn't about pushing harder or doing more. It's about finally giving yourself permission to stop. Subscribe to The Anxious Mind to understand your anxiety without shame and train a calmer mind. Like this video if you want clarity without judgment. If you're experiencing burnout right now, write one word in the comments that describes how it feels. And if this resonated, the next video will show you how to rebuild your energy without guilt. Thank you for being here. You're not alone in this.